Okay, I'm gonna word vomit some things here, and if you're a photographer watching this, you're probably gonna be able to relate to majority, if not all of these struggles. And I just think it's important to highlight these things because sometimes we can feel like we're doing these things alone, or that we're the only ones who experience these things in business, when in fact it's the opposite. Image licensing. People telling you that they don't like your work. Trying to say no to a project because it doesn't suit you, or you're really just not inspired by the brand at all. When should you quit your day job to go full-time in your photography business? So I want to dive deeper into these struggles a little bit more and tell you how I've approached these within my own business. So I want to start by talking about saying no to projects that you don't want to take on as a business owner. And this is going to happen eventually, and it's really hard to start saying no to projects and turning them down. With the first couple of projects that I started saying no to, I had two business owners kind of like lash out at me, and they made me feel bad for not being able or not wanting to take on their project. They were actually really rude. And I think that some people forget that as product photographers, just because we're product photographers doesn't mean that we want to take on every single product, that we want to shoot every single product under the sun and shoot with every single brand. So how should we approach saying no in a nice way to projects that we don't want to take on? And what kinds of things can we do to help minimize these types of inquiries that may not actually suit us? This video is sponsored by Zyro, and having a strong and clear website will actually help to reduce those projects where the brief may not suit you. It may not be a project or a product you enjoy, or the client's budget may be well below what your project minimum actually is. So the goal is to make your website really work for you so that you are attracting those inquiries that are really going to light you up. I'm absolutely obsessed with Zyro's website building platform, and it is by far the easiest platform I've ever used to build a website on. And don't worry, you won't need any design or coding skills to use Zyro. It's all drag and drop, and there are so many designer made templates you can build a foundation from. Now, speed is a really important thing when you're looking at a website hosting platform to use. Especially as photographers, we're going to want to upload heaps of photos to showcase our work, and any website built with Zyro loads really fast. A website that I used to have for my business actually crashed on me because I think there were too many photos, but in general, the website was just always so slow. I think it would take maybe 5 seconds to load, and honestly, it's just not a good thing for business. So speed is something that you should absolutely value when you are building your website. And if you get stuck at any point, Zyro have a 24/7 customer support service, so you don't have to wait until the next day for an answer, and you can just get on with building your website. Now, Zyro are having a Black Friday sale for a very limited time, so I'll leave a link in the description box below, and you can use my code to get 86% off, plus 3 months for free, plus a free domain for a whole year when you sign up to a yearly plan. So make sure that you go and check that out. Now, I know websites can be a low priority, but after giving our website some love this year, I can tell you from experience, it makes a huge difference in the types of inquiries that come through. A clear and professional website will help you to communicate your worth, to communicate your value, and the kind of quality that you can offer a client. And eventually you won't have to say no to so many projects because you'll be attracting the types of inquiries that are going to light you up. Now, if there is an inquiry that you want to say no to, don't leave them high and dry. Refer them to another photographer and help them move along in their journey to find someone who is going to be suited to their brief. And this is why it's so important to make friends with your fellow photographers instead of seeing them as competition. All right, struggle number 2, image licensing. Where to start on this topic? I think that most photographers struggle with image licensing is because there's not really any black and white guidelines out there on exactly what you should charge when it comes to image licensing. And photographers will calculate things in different ways. And honestly, there are just so many factors that have to be considered when you are pricing up an image license. For example, if you're working with a business who hasn't even launched yet, then you're probably not going to charge additional licensing fees because A, that client most likely cannot afford it, and B, they don't have any audience yet. They don't have any eyes on their content, and if they do, it's going to be probably very minimal. So most likely you wouldn't really charge additional licensing fees in that situation. Well, I personally wouldn't anyway. Now for us, we have incorporated some licensing fees into our costs. So this includes licensing for digital, so website, organic and paid ads, some PR, and some print purposes like brochures, like thank you cards, things like that. Now we're also based in Australia, and after talking with some photographers in USA and the UK, there seems to be a little bit of a difference in licensing based on where you are geographically located. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I'm an expert on image licensing because I'm absolutely not. But I think it's important to assess each project carefully and who the brand is. How big is the brand? Most often, the bigger the brand, the more eyes on the content, and where your work is going to be seen. So in your creative brief, you would ask the question, where are these images going to be placed? Are they going to be used for organic and paid social media, for website, for press and PR? Are they going to be placed on a billboard or in a magazine, or in an international or national catalog? Are they going on a third-party retailer's website? Questions like that. So I'm going to give you a link to an article that I found really helpful on image licensing in the description box below. It just gives you some different ways of how to approach calculating image licensing for your business. Overall, I know this is a huge topic that so many photographers struggle with, and just continue to do your own research, talk to other photographers, but also know your market and what your clients can afford as well. Okay, so the next struggle that I want to talk about is dealing with difficult clients and what happens when you receive negative feedback about your work. Because let's be honest, when someone says that they can't use your content because of XYZ, it sucks. It's like a knife in the heart, and you just want to curl up in a hole and block the curtains and block out the world and maybe drink a bottle of wine. As a photographer, it's inevitable that you will encounter these situations where people are difficult and people won't like your work. It's going to happen, and I promise it gets easier over time. I had one client this year who was probably the worst that I've ever had. They threatened my reputation, told me how to do my job, gaslighted me, said they overpaid for my work, asked for free content, for free video content, and asked for the raw photos. So that's really like the whole package. And that was only this year, which is 3.5 years into my photography journey. And obviously these situations are frustrating, but I think it's still really important that as a business owner, we maintain professionalism, we be friendly and polite, even if we're not receiving that from the client. And so in regards to when people don't like your work, what happens then? What do you do? How do you address that? And I think it's really important to start with the why. Why are they coming back to you with negative feedback? I understand that it can feel like a personal attack when someone says that they don't like your photo, but we have to remember that this is still a business transaction and try to take the emotion out of the situation, which I get can be really hard because our work stems from our emotions. So my best advice here is to always come back to your original scope of work, aka your brief. And this is why we do a lot of pre-production work. We ask a lot of questions, even if they're minor questions, to try and get as much detail from the client as possible. And this way you can assess whether or not it was you who maybe missed a detail from the brief, or if the client has actually changed their mind based on seeing the final product. But honestly, people not loving your work, it's not a good time. Your stomach drops. You start to question yourself. You wonder where things broke down in the communication between yourself and your client. But it's important to take these situations and just simply learn from the experience. So the last struggle that I wanted to talk about was, when should you go full-time in your photography business? And obviously we've all been there, and it's a struggle to know when is that time going to be right. Because making that leap from full-time or part-time day job to full-time in your photography business is a damn scary thing. For me, I made the transition from going full-time to part-time, so that actually gave me a little bit more time each week to start building up my business more. I was still able to earn a paycheck each week, so it did alleviate some financial burden as opposed to just going full-time working in a corporate job to full-time working in my own business. And I think I was earning about $2,000 to $3,000 per month when I really started to consider going full-time in my photography business. And then 5 months down the track in my part-time job, I got fired, which was actually a really good thing because I was already thinking about leaving, and this was just, it was my way out. So I think when it comes to making that leap, you really have to assess, can I afford to go full-time in my own business? So you want to be looking at your weekly and your monthly expenses. And you might also have a partner that has a full-time job as well that can help to alleviate some of that financial burden of you making that transition. So make sure that you consider those things as well. And then if you decide to go full-time, please ensure that you have some sort of a marketing plan in place as well. So this is to help you stay consistent with showing up, to help you get more consistent leads, and just overall creating a routine of doing tasks that are actually going to move your business forward. Sometimes we can get really bogged down in the busy work of business that we don't actually do those important tasks that moves the money needle forward. I do it all the time. I procrastinate and I put off tasks that are actually going to help me make me money. So I get it. So make sure that you identify those money needle moving tasks and create a routine around that. But honestly, you'll know in your gut when you're ready to go full time, and just make sure that you listen to your intuition. I would actually love to hear your experience about making the transition from full-time or part-time day job to full-time in your photography career. How did you feel? What happened? Leave a comment down below. I would absolutely love to know. So those are the 4 things that I have really struggled with across my photography journey over the last coming up to 4 years now. And I would love to know if you can relate to any of those, or if there are any other major struggles that you've experienced as well in your business. I would love to know. Otherwise, I hope you found this helpful and interesting, and I will see you in the next video.